Every evening at exactly 6:42 p.m., an entire village would fall silent. Doors were locked, windows were barred, children were pulled from the streets. It wasn't because of war, it wasn't because of crime, it was because when the sun disappeared behind the horizon, something came out to feed. This story unfolds in a small, isolated village, home to fewer than 400 people. It's a place frozen in time, with no bars, no streetlights, and absolutely no nightlife. In fact, there was no life at all on the streets after dark. Visitors, who were rare, would notice the strangeness immediately. Even the dogs, who roamed free during the day, were locked securely indoors before sunset. When asked why, the locals would simply call it a tradition, something older than memory itself. If you pressed them for more information, they'd abruptly change the subject, or worse, make a protective sign and walk away. A silent fear hung in the air, thick and suffocating, a fear no one dared to name. The quiet dread finally took a physical form with the death of an old shepherd named Marek. He was a creature of habit, always returning home with his flock just before dusk. One evening he didn't. At the first light of dawn, a search party found him near the edge of the wheat fields. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood staining the ground around him, but his appearance was horrifying. His skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched tight over his bones as if every drop of moisture had been squeezed out of him. A doctor, summoned from the next town, was baffled. His official report listed the cause of death as severe dehydration, but everyone knew Marek had been healthy and strong just the day before. No human, no matter how ill, can dehydrate that quickly. Tucked away in the report, almost as an afterthought, was a mention of two small, peculiar marks on his neck. They were dismissed as insect bites. After Marek's death, a grim understanding settled over the village. The elders gathered, not in public, but in hushed secret meetings. They didn't call the police. They knew no outside law could help them. They didn't hold a funeral. There was no body to mourn, only a hollow shell. Instead, they reinforced the ancient, unspoken laws. They added new rules, engraving them into the community's consciousness with the chisel of fear. First, all doors must be locked and barred before the last ray of sunlight vanishes. Second, no one, under any circumstances, is to answer a knock at the door after nightfall. Third, you must never, ever invite a stranger inside. Fourth, all mirrors in the house must be covered after dark. And the most important rule of all, the one that could mean the difference between life and death. If you hear someone calling your name in the dead of night, even if it's a voice you know and love, you must not answer. One crisp autumn evening, a traveler, a young man unaware of the village's curse, arrived late. He was tired and seeking shelter, and he scoffed at the quiet warnings from the few people still scurrying to get indoors. As the sun dipped below the trees, he remained outside, a solitary figure in the descending gloom. From behind their curtains, the villagers watched him, their hearts pounding in their chests. They saw him walk from one locked door to the next, his knocks echoing in the unnerving silence. Then, the village heard his scream. It was a sharp, piercing sound, cut short almost instantly. Silence returned, deeper and more profound than before. At sunrise, they found him near the old village well. His body was just like Marek's, dry, hollowed out, with eyes wide open in a final moment of unimaginable terror. There were 2 puncture wounds on his neck, but this time, the report noted something even more disturbing. His blood was missing, entirely. The terror was too much to bear in silence any longer. Anya, a woman nearly 90 years old and the village's oldest resident, finally broke. Her voice, thin and raspy with age, spoke the truth that had been buried for generations. She said the creature had been there long before the village itself was even built. It lived in the darkness beneath the old abandoned chapel at the edge of the woods. It didn't kill often, she explained. It only hunted when it was hungry, or when someone foolishly or accidentally broke the rules. It drinks people dry, she whispered to the horrified faces around her. And if we don't obey, if we ever stop feeding it with our silence and our fear, it will drink the whole village. Her confession unearthed an even darker history. Long ago, the first villagers had tried to escape. They packed their carts and gathered their families, determined to flee the oppressive shadow that loomed over their lives. But their efforts were futile. Cart axles mysteriously broke. Livestock, usually placid, would rear up in terror and refuse to move an inch further. People who tried to run would collapse from a sudden, inexplicable exhaustion before they even reached the edge of the forest. They soon realized a terrifying truth. Something was following them, tethering them to this cursed land. It wouldn't let them leave. So, they stayed. They made an unspoken pact with the creature in the dark. They traded their silence for a semblance of safety. They offered a tribute of blood for a fragile peace. The locked doors weren't just to keep the creature out. They were a symbol of their imprisonment, a nightly ritual of surrender. Years later, a routine census check brought authorities to the village. They found it completely deserted. There were no bodies, no signs of a struggle, no clues to explain where over 400 people had gone. All they found were hundreds of homes, with their doors and windows securely locked and barred from the inside. Driven by a final, chilling curiosity, the investigators descended into the musty basement of the old chapel. There, in the damp earth, they found a single set of fresh footprints, not human, leading away into a dark, unexplored tunnel. And on the stone wall, a message had been crudely carved, the letters fresh and sharp. It read, "The sun sets. I drink." The mystery of the village was never solved. It became another forgotten file, a ghost story whispered by locals in the surrounding towns. But the lesson remains. If you ever find yourself in a place where the streets are empty after sunset, a village where the silence at night is too perfect, lock your door early. And if you hear a voice calling your name in the darkness, a voice you think you recognize, remember the village and do not answer. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more dark tales. We'll see you in the next one.